Shall we begin? Are you ready? I want to thank all of you for coming to meet us this morning. This election is very important to Singapore and for all Singaporeans. Of course, when we are elected, we have to deal with issues of the next 5 years, such as growing the economy, providing jobs to our people, dealing with the cost of living issues, concerns, dealing with other matters like the housing demands of our people, and also coping with the foreigners, calibrating the numbers. I think it is not just about the current issues they are facing, but we also have to look at the longer term issues that we will be facing. With an uncertain world ahead of us, nobody can tell what may happen in the years ahead. We therefore need to continue to be vigilant, and while dealing with the next 5 years, we should have our mind, our eyes looking forward a bit more to 15, 20 years. One major one would be our aging population and our low fertility rate, and the constant global changes that will affect our own economy. For Singaporeans, and in particular the government's mind, will be to focus on the economy so that there will be good paying jobs, enough jobs for Singaporeans. But underlying that is the issue of security. Security does not feature in our people's minds in good times or even in bad times, like during a recession. In good times, well, things look so calm, stable. In bad times, I think the concern will be about the jobs and about the next meal. So the safety and the security of a country is probably pushed back to the back of the mind until something happens in the neighborhood, in the region, and that jerks them a little. They will really sit up only when a terrorist bomb happens in Singapore, and then they'll be totally shocked by it, just like the Americans were in September 2011, or in the UK, 9/11, and in the UK, in London. Well, we hope we would not face this, but we must be prepared to deal with this if it comes down to that terrorists are able to come in and hit us. And this is a real threat that we must face up to. While it is there, we must not be paralyzed by that fear that a bomb may explode in Singapore. Otherwise, we cannot function. Or we shut ourselves away from the rest, shut ourselves out from the rest of the world. Then we also cannot function. So we have to continue to keep our economy open so that we can continue to trade, to export, to make a living, to travel, and to attract tourists. And we need to put in place the appropriate measures to screen out those whom we do not want to welcome. The death of Osama does not end terrorism. In fact, the death of Osama may excite and agitate some terrorist groups into action. As you have heard about this, the responses from other countries, other governments, and other terrorist organizations. So we should not treat the threat of terrorism too lightly, or lightly at all. It is a serious threat. And therefore, while we go on with our lives, we must always have our eyes on the lookout, be conscious, be aware of the environment, and also to ensure that if people see suspicious people or items, take the necessary action, report to the police. Then at least some action can be taken to follow up and see what the person or the parcel or the object really is like. I think that is the way we should live our life in this climate where there is a serious terrorist threat. And should it happen and they manage to come in and hit us, we must be prepared to deal with the consequences and recover from it and become a stronger, more resilient people. So that is the general area which I think we should also bring our people's minds back to focus, that at the back of all the issues that we face today, terrorism is real, it is serious, and we must not take security for granted. Having talked about that, let me say on the 6th day of the election campaign, what is our sense of our people, the residents, the voters we meet in the last 6 days? We have been very busy, starting meeting our residents at the MRT, at bus interchanges, at coffee shops from 7:30 in the morning till 9:30 in the evening. In between the coffee shops and the MRT, and the interchanges, we also visit our residents in their homes. And the reception we received so far has been very warm. Residents know what we have done, they appreciate what we have done, and of course many have offered views as to what more can be done. So we are quite pleased with the response we have received so far. And when we look at the residents we met, I think I can basically divide them into say 2 or 3 groups of people. During the morning time, we see young people, workers, or older ones, children, students going to the MRT, going to school. So that's the general population here. In the coffee shops, in the later part of the morning, you'll see the ones who are at home, not working, but they are having drinks or coffee or breakfast in the coffee shop. They are probably the ones who are a bit older, the 50s and the 60s, some in the 70s and even 80s. People of that generation, they have seen through Singapore what we have done. They are very satisfied with what we have done. And I think we know the expectation. For the younger ones, many of them, particularly the very young adults, many are working. In fact, most of them are working. We seldom see them at homes or at the coffee shops having tea at 9 or 10 o'clock. So we miss that group. But we think we can find a way to reach out to them, which I'll talk about it later. And then for the other group, mothers who stay at home to look after young children, they are in their late 20s, early 30s, or some even early 40s. They are also very friendly. They have young children to look after, and normally when we see them, they will bring the whole family out to meet us, take photographs with us. So for that group, I think our sense is that they also understand the issues facing them, and they also know that we understand their problem. For the younger ones, of course, we do meet some of them in the last 3 days during the holidays. The sense we have is that even for young voters in the 20s and early 30s, they have been positive. And from that sample, I think that the younger ones know what they want. Although they have different dreams from their parents, they have different expectations, different aspirations. But I think they know that the government has done well for them, and I believe that they will have confidence in this government to continue serving them. There are some concerns raised by residents. Some, of course, are concerned about cost of living issues, which we are also concerned about, which we'll do something about. Some raise issues about housing prices, particularly for residents here in Bishan and Toa. They've been very settled here, but their children want to buy homes. And they can't buy a home in Toa or Bishan because the prices are higher. But we told them that the new HDB flats, the prices are affordable. They can pay for it with a CPF, and they can work, and they will be able to afford the home. Of course, the keenness to have the children living near them is an important consideration for even the children. So we discussed that as well. And I think they understand what we are trying to do. Some were concerned about foreigners. Of course, foreigners are like foreign workers, they are big in number, and we will also find a way to calibrate the number. And for PRs, we have started trending down the numbers already. We know that for the young ones whom we don't have the opportunity to see, such as those who don't attend our events or functions and who are not at home when we visit the homes, we are finding new ways of reaching out to them. A year ago or 2 years, in some of our cases here, some of us here, we have started getting into the social media. We have set up blog sites, we have set up websites, we have set up Facebooks. And in this last few days, we have been very active, putting in our comments, answering questions, posting photos and short comments on what we've been doing the last few days. And even before the campaign started, we have already started to attract many friends and fans who followed what we have been doing. So in the next term, if we're elected, we will find new avenues to engage them. One is an example of having a community dialogue, focusing only on the young ones. And we will invite them on a regular basis, 3 months or 6 months, so that we can bring them together, and we will want to listen to them and hear what they have to say about Singapore, about things in general, or even giving us specific comments on issues. So that is the sense we have, and from my new media teams, each of us has a new media team to engage our social media community, and we have been updating them, and we will follow up with whatever they say, and we will write to them and communicate with them as well. So that's what we've been doing in the last few days. And therefore, to encourage our youth to be more active, we will continue this process of seeking views from them on how to make this place better.